Pato O'Ward on the pole, Felix Rosenqvist alongside him, Power and Malukas on the second row, Palou and Rossi on row 3, Lundgaard and Armstrong, Dixon and Ericsson. That's your top 10 as they make their way through turn 12, as they put their feet to the floor and accelerate in to the run to turn 1. Pato O'Ward with a good start, but look at Rosenqvist coming up alongside the McLaren man, moving to the outside as Palou gets swamped around him. Everybody making it through pretty neat and tidy. No big crash there, and that is job 1 done. Palou with a little wobble on exit, and he's managed to get his way past David Malukas, but it's Pato O'Ward who leads from Felix Rosenqvist.
90% relief there for Alex Palou to survive turn 1. He played it safe and smart. Brilliant job to protect his race car.
Oh, and it's a big one at the back.
Is that Santino?
I think it's Ferrucci. I think that is Santino Ferrucci, and that's big coming out of 12. Let's take a look on board with Santino Ferrucci, see how this all played out.
Oh,
that is Jacob Abel ahead.
Yeah, gets Abel. Gets a little wide there. Oh, just loses it on the power. Oh, big mistake.
Brilliant start from Pato O'Ward down the drag strip with Rosenqvist behind, and Will Power, a brilliant start from him as well, gapping Alex Palou behind as Lundgaard has a look at Alexander Rossi, who closes the door on him immediately.
Further back, lots of drivers having a look, and is there contact with Louis Foster and Ritas VK, both being hit from behind and spun around. They will continue.
I think that was Kiffin Simpson getting into the back of Louis Foster, VK spinning to try to avoid the car ahead of him of Louis Foster. They both get going and back on their way.
Oh, Daly trying to make it around the outside of Rasmussen in 7. That's
and he's bumped him off.
They both go off.
Contact between those two. Daly will be fuming, I'm sure, with that. Daly was leading the pack of drivers who had already come in to stop, was on the soft tyre, as Louis Foster now trying to take advantage of Daly with dirt all over his tyres, and the rookie gets through as well. Wow, now Foster putting the move on Rasmussen. That's nice, really nice from the rookie. Daly trying to get through as well, and that's a little bit of afters from Connor Daly. That's frustration seeping out of him. Oh! Big hit! It felt like that has been coming for a lap and a half. The frustration.
Rasmussen just wrecked us, so I'm sorry about that.
So this is Daly putting the move on around the outside. Feels that Rasmussen just nudged him off the track there, and from this point on, the frustration in Connor Daly absolutely evident
and absolutely warranted. That wasn't a nudge, Will. He just drove him straight off. That was totally uncalled for, and we'll need to see that one a little bit earlier on if we can. It's tough to see how it started.
A horrible hit.
It is so fortunate that Connor's car did not get airborne or start rolling right there. I mean, he's going 100 and probably 40 miles an hour as he hits the grass. That is a terrifying crash.
It's a pretty good stop there for the 5, and that is a team that is so good on pit lane.
Will Power has stayed out, so too our championship leader, Alex Palou. Will Power, a brilliant restart from him, but look at Scott McLaughlin on the championship leader, tucked up with him, running down with him to turn 1. McLaughlin trying for an outside move again, but Palou has it covered.
Understand there was contact between McLaughlin and Palou. Let's watch.
This was on that restart.
Oh, wow.
That was a little chrome horn, perfectly placed nose cone to the right rear tire.
Pato O'Ward now passed by his teammate. Lundgaard takes up another position. Oh, and O'Ward, has he got a problem?
Oh, he does.
I think he's got a problem.
Good. That sounded terminal for Pato O'Ward.
You hear the engine note drop. That does look terminal. That's it.
P0 and back to P2. Try P0, back to P2.
They're hoping to restart the car, hoping it's an electrical issue.
And that's why we lost the camera feed. Trying to Control-Alt-Delete it.
I just get a feeling that this strategy, Alex Palou does things on some of these hard tyres that we aren't able to see from other people. Interested to watch this unfold.
And Power has got out ahead of Felix Rosenqvist. Lundgaard takes the advantage to move past Rosenqvist, who started on the front row of the grid because he can see Will Power ahead of him. This very much now the fight for the prospective victory of this race, and it is playing out into the hands of Will Power. What a brilliant stint from Power. What brilliant strategy from Penske.
This has been such an impressive run for Will. We've already said how good this 12 team are with pit stops, and right now there is a little bit of a bubble there. Finally down pit lane.
Long fuel for Will Power, but only 7.1 seconds stopped. He exits pit lane. Whereabouts is Christian Lundgaard, and only now is Lundgaard coming down and past pit exit. Power retakes his position ahead of Lundgaard with ease.
The key is the fresh, brand new set of soft red sidewalled Firestones. Will Power does not have that available. Alex Palou does, so there are still 3 in play. Let's watch the stop for Arrow McLaren. And Lundgaard is back out.
Every last drop of Shell 100% renewable fuel goes into that McLaren. Christian Lundgaard is on his way. That is his final stop. Alex Palou comes in for his stop. Out on track, Will Power is under pressure from Lundgaard. This is a 3-way fight for the win. Your championship leader emerges in what will be a podium position, but he has the time now to make up to the drivers ahead of him. Oh, and that's Joseph Newgarden, who was in the top 10. It looks like a spin. And this a replay of what happened, and it was as he left the pits on cold tires, tries to line it up as Scott Dixon takes the fight to him. No, Scott hits him.
God help. Scott Dixon will almost certainly be getting a drive-through penalty for that. We're looking out the back of the Estemo car, Joseph Newgarden, and here comes Dixon, chrome horn.
1.5 car lengths becomes a car length. Alex Palou goes to the inside. Alex Palou has second place from Lundgaard. Needs to get his foot down and keep his foot in through the left, down the back stretch. Lundgaard takes it back to Palou. It seems reminiscent of Thermal Club earlier this year. The championship leader will know he will have to fight with all he has to get past Lundgaard, who says, not right now. You are not coming through because this race today is mine and not yours. Here we go, around the outside for Alex Palou. It'll become the inside, and he's out and on the gravel, on the grass, bouncing around.
Whoa, what a save. What a save.
As we take a look at the replay.
Go back, you're all ahead.
So Palou is trying to take advantage of the 7 getting slowed up a little bit, faded out, but guys, that has been deemed acceptable racing in IndyCar. So
oh yeah, he left him
totally fine.
He left him a car width barely. I'll tell you, this is an incredible piece of driving from Palou to not spin, to not go way off track.
Will Power returns to victory lane and puts Penske back on the top step of the podium.
Oh, good job, boys, all weekend. Very good job, very good job.
Lundgaard home second, and while the day belongs to Power, the year belongs to Palou. Alex Palou is a 4-time IndyCar champion.
Up next, it's the Snap-on Milwaukee Mile 250, Sunday, August 24th at 2 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
And with that, welcome back to another episode of the Push to Pass podcast. We are now up to episode number 92, so slowly climbing it toward that proverbial centennial mark. Again, I am Derik Vance, and I will bring in Michael here shortly. Josh is on a prior commitment. Hopefully this is the last week of that, but what an interesting race that we had Sunday. A lot of different strategies played out. Obviously, some were winners, some were losers. Michael will talk about that here as the show breaks down. Also, if you're new, I will give you my 5 takeaways from this past weekend's race as well. We have some driver interviews, and we'll go over results, point standings, which really at this point, I guess, really don't mean much. As you've seen there that Alex Palou was able to capture his 4th Astro Cup in the last 5 seasons. So congratulations goes out to him for completing the three-peat back to back, and we'll talk about that here in my takeaways as well. And then we'll go over race picks because things are starting to tighten up just a hair with just 2 races left to go this evening. We got some news and notes. TV ratings came out today from Portland. If you didn't see those, we'll go over those here momentarily as well. But before we get into all that, let me bring in the other co-host of the Push to Pass podcast. It is who everybody comes to see week in and week out. Michael, how are you this evening?
I'm doing okay. I don't know if that is those are accurate statements that Derik has said there, but doing good tonight. Excited to talk about Portland and everything that's happened this past weekend.
Yeah, definitely a lot to discuss and talk about and break down. So let's get in to it, shall we? Let me get the right graphics up on the screen for everyone so it matches up to what we're talking about here. But yes, this past weekend we did have, as Michael just alluded to right there, the BitNile.com Grand Prix of Portland. And as I mentioned, I just mentioned it, huge congratulations obviously goes out to Alex Palou for winning, Alex Palou and the number 10, DHL Honda crew of Chip Ganassi Racing for winning his 4th Astro Cup in 6 years and completing, like I mentioned, the trifecta there, the back-to-back Astro Cup champions, but not to be sold short. Obviously, congratulations does go out to the race winner, Will Power and the whole number 12 Verizon Team Penske crew, obviously for winning the race on Sunday. But obviously the bigger story was what Alex Palou was able to do on Sunday, and we'll talk about that here as we go through my 5 takeaways. So let's get into them, Michael. My 5th takeaway, number 5. Let's see if I have this right. That's not the graphic I want. Oh, I just had this set up earlier, and now there. Here we go. Michael, I know we talked about this on Coming Home Sunday. Listening to it on the radio, I didn't think you had an opportunity to watch the race. But the viewership now for the last 2 races, I think is going to be something that's going to be watched, especially with Fox wrapping up their first season of NTT IndyCar Series coverage. And Alex Palou obviously capturing the Astro Cup on Sunday. In my opinion, I don't think things are going to look too good going forward for Fox for the last 2 races of the season. It's been well documented in the media and on here. The viewership has been a real struggle for Fox outside of the biggest race of the year, the Indianapolis 500. And now with nothing really important, obviously the points championship wrapped up to race for, I think the big question is, Michael, 2. 1, will Fox be able to bring new eyes to the sport? Or for these last 2 races, are they just going to get the Indy regulars? And then another huge question I think that's actually been at the forefront, and if I remember correctly, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, a particular tweet by one Tony Donahue with Alex Palou now officially winning his 3rd straight Astro Cup, and with 2 races left, the dominance of Alex Palou these last 3 seasons, is he going to force Fox to push to the higher hierarchy of IndyCar, a playoff in the future? I think that's another question that begs to be talked about as well.
I think you hit every point that I had lined up for this. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the TV ratings from today that were released, a little over 700,000. That's kind of the IndyCar fan base. If we're looking at the diehard IndyCar fan base, I would say, and to get more eyes on the sport after you've already crowned a champion, it'd be like the NFL going to the Super Bowl, but the Bills won 2 games. They won the championship 2 games ago. I mean, it doesn't make sense, and you're not going to get new eyes. You might get a few new eyes that tune in. They might be flipping through and see, the race on and tune in, but you're not going to get a big portion of an audience to look at it. So when I look at it from that standpoint, we're not going to probably get a ton of viewership. I wouldn't be shocked if even some of the regulars that watch the IndyCar series week in and week out, kind of tune out if they have more important things to do with family or friends. So it is tough. I know you and I talked about it on Sunday. Name another, sports league in the United States that doesn't have a playoff system. And it's tough because I've seen what it can do to the NASCAR side of things and a playoff there. If they can do it right, it could be good. And then we're just speculating at this point if we do get a playoff system or not. But like you said, with these last 2 races, what's the attendance going to be like as far as, at the track? I think that's another big thing you have to look at. And then, obviously TV talks. So the TV numbers, how are they going to look? It just all boils down to getting those people that watch it week in and week out to share it with people, to talk to people about the sport, and to make it interesting. And that's where, the media needs to come in, content creators and things like that. Podcasters need to come together and work together to grow the sport. And Fox can really help with that. So it'll be interesting to see, obviously what the viewership is like over the, the last 2 races. I want to say the next 2 weeks, but we get a week off again. So, I think that's a whole nother topic with this schedule. We haven't got a schedule for next year, but the schedule being as choppy as it is, you never know when a race is going to be. I think that's also another thing that really kills the TV numbers.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with all your points. I do want to bring one up though that I found interesting when you hit on the content creators, podcasters kind of need to pull their weight a little bit, I think, is what you were talking about in bringing new eyes to the sport. Well, I had a conversation with a fellow podcaster a week or 2 ago, I believe. It was a short conversation. And the interesting tidbit that he told me was trying to get drivers on his show. He was getting so much pushback from the driver or the team's PR about getting their driver on, or the message not being relayed that, hey, you've been asked. So as a content creator, I get the fact that some of that weight does fall on our shoulders to get new eyes to the sport by doing shows like this and things of that nature. But I'm going to counter that, Michael, by saying it's awful tough for a content creator or podcaster like me and you to try to get new eyes on the sport when we're trying to get those drivers exposure on these shows, and you're getting pushback from team PR.
Yeah, that's tough. You look at that aspect as well. You look at, working with the drivers, and I knew I and Josh, we had extensive conversations about that. And it is kind of, having to work with the driver schedule. And I know Josh and I went kind of hard at that, but at the same time, like, you do have to work with their schedule, but they have to have some leeway as well. And that's where it is tough. And it's like, hey, I got a Tuesday afternoon at 2:30. Okay, I just got off work. How do you get that set up? So it is tough. But if you want the interview, you kind of have to work into their schedule the best you can. I know I tried to get an interview with Kyle Larson at Indy, and it just didn't. Our schedules just didn't work out. And I know he's super busy with the double and flying here, flying there, appearance here, appearance there. So I didn't take that to heart. I did reach out to his PR person, and she was super nice. She, we chatted quite a few times, and she tried to fit me in. It just didn't work. And that is understandable when you have that much going on. But when we're having 1, 2, 3 weeks off in between races, if a driver can't fit in 15 minutes, 15 minutes is okay. Like as much time as you can get with a driver is fine. And that's why I do like when we can get some of the Indy Next drivers on, because we're spotlighting them, and they're kind of the up and comers, so they're kind of new to the sport or new to the series, so they're trying to get their name out, and it helps us as well. So it is a balance, and it is kind of one of those things where you kind of have to keep your name in there, email this week, and it's tough. The drivers have to play a part in that, and hopefully Fox will kind of push them to do that. And I know I do talk a lot about NASCAR on here, and I know we're an IndyCar podcast, but following all sorts of all series of racing, I kind of get a good insight. And NASCAR has done this year something that's incredible. They've done a basically, if a driver goes on a podcast or goes to an event, they get credit for that, and each driver gets points, kind of not that the fans see, but they get kind of an incentive to do things outside of their normal duties. And maybe that's what IndyCar needs, a little bit of an incentive to go on hey, Joseph Newgarden, would you come on a podcast? Well, if he gets an extra, $500,000, once or twice a year, maybe he'll consider it. So, and I know that's NASCAR's payout. They pay out $1 million twice a year to the driver that occurs the most points in that system. And fans don't really know how that's accounted for or anything like that. But it is a good way for the driver to get something in return. But it's also good to get the drivers out more. Instead of, the month of May, they're out all month. You can find drivers just about anywhere. But after May, it's hard. Like, it's very hard to find drivers. So maybe there needs to be an incentive program for them to actually want to do stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely worth looking into, especially if you're Fox, who, within the last couple weeks have taken a little bit of a they bought in to IndyCar. They bought that share. So definitely going to be interesting to see what changes in the offseason Fox can bring to the table now that they're a partial owner of the series. All right, moving on to my fourth takeaway from this past weekend's race, and kudos, got to give it again to to Meyer-Shank Racing. Michael, as I sit back and watch, to me, Meyer-Shank Racing, it is just a matter of time before they're able to break that proverbial glass ceiling and collect their first win of the season. At the conclusion of Sunday's race, Marcus Ericsson in the number 66 Root Honda collected his 10th, if you can believe that, top 10 of the season, finishing in the 8th position, while teammate Felix Rosenqvist in the number 60 Grateful Dead Sirius XM Honda came home just one spot behind his teammate in the 9th position, which gave Rosenqvist his 9th top 10 of the season. So it's got to be impressive, Michael, that collectively Marcus Armstrong and Felix Rosenqvist this year for Meyer-Shank Racing have had a solid season, scoring 6 top 5 finishes, but adding an astounding 19 top 10 finishes between both drivers. So a lot of momentum over there in the Meyer-Shank Racing camp.
Yeah, I think we kind of expected it this year. solid driver lineup. Felix and Marcus. They're pretty, experienced drivers. Marcus kind of new to IndyCar, but still, has that experience on the Junior Formula Series. But I look at that team and that alliance with, Chip Ganassi Racing, and you kind of expect them to be running as well as they are, just for the simple fact that they kind of have all the data. I mean, look at how well Palou's been. Dixon, as bad as he's qualified this year, he's ran really well in races. So I don't really know if it's a huge, it's a big thing for them, because they were, the small team that was, chugging along and kind of got their notoriety once, Elio won the Indy 500 with them. But, they keep plugging away. Now they have a good, technical alliance with Chip Ganassi Racing. So, yeah, the expectations are there, and they're actually, living up to them. So it'll be interesting to see if they can grow even more, and like you said, get into victory lane.
Yes, absolutely. And my next takeaway actually does talk about a team that I think is in the same boat, rowing the same boat as Meyershank Racing. And this team has come a long, long way from where they were at the beginning of the year to now, I think, and in particular, a certain driver. Strong finish for Callum Ilott on Sunday. Obviously, we've talked about it. It's well documented what a up and down roller coaster Callum Ilott and Prema Racing have been on in their first year on the NTT IndyCar Series. But the last few races, Michael, it does seem that the trend seems to be trending upward, and the future may be a little more brighter than what it was beginning of the year for Prema. Ilott in the number 90 Chevrolet collected a 6th place finish, which gives him his 3rd top 10 finish of the year. Obviously, Ilott was able to run towards the front of the pack on Sunday. It looked very strong at times. So my takeaway from Prema on Sunday, Michael, has Prema Racing turned the proverbial corner heading into 2026?
Yeah, we kind of talked about this, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and yeah, they're slowly learning. Everyone is learning at that team. We look at it, and I know I talked about it then. Half the team is Italian, so they've never even touched an Indy car. So now they're finally figuring out, the ins and the outs, what adjustments work, what adjustments don't work. What Callum needs, what Robert needs in the cars. And I think that's the big takeaway here that we have to look at overall, is that the drivers are getting more experience. We have to remember, too, this is Robert Schwartzman. This is his first season in IndyCar. Callum's been here 2 or 3 years now, but this is Robert Schwartzman. This is his first season running on ovals as well. And we look at the success he had at the Indy 500, putting the car on pole there, and the excitement that they had around the team. They just continually, increase, and they're getting better and better every week. And it's just getting those reps, getting those rhythms, learning, like I said, what works for the drivers, what doesn't work for the drivers, and things like that. And they're a new team. All these other teams have had years and years of experience on this chassis. So hopefully that changes here in a couple of years, and we can get everyone kind of back to square one. But, for them coming in and even having, top 10 is remarkable. But as well as Callum's been, and, this year, and as well as Robert's been in a few races, it is good to see the newer teams being able to progress. And, we can look at other teams that have done really well this year, and they're not outliers because they've had several races that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, it is going to be interesting to see if Prema figured it out. Obviously this year has been a struggle, and there's no 2 ways around it. but they are slowly, as you said, they're starting to learn this chassis, this IndyCar, and maybe big things in the offseason. Looking forward to Prema in 2026. All right, my second takeaway from this weekend obviously has to do with Michael. Are we witnessing? And we touched base on this on Sunday too, but are we witnessing a start of a Palou dynasty? And I say that because 2021, 2023, 2024, and now 2025, it sure sounds like a dynasty to me, Michael. And I'm curious to hear what you have to say. But with Palou's third place finish on Sunday, obviously in the opener, he was able to clinch his fourth Astro Cup in 5 seasons, which ties him with Mario Andretti. Listen to these names: Mario Andretti, Sebastian Bourdais, and Dario Franchitti for third on the all-time championship list, just behind Scott Dixon with 6 titles and the great AJ Foyt with 7. Another historical list. Alex Palou is able to etch his name in on this as well. He does join the historical list with Ted Horn from 1946 to 1948, Sebastian Bourdais from 2004, 2007, and Dario Franchitti from 2009 to 2011 as the only drivers to achieve the historical three-peat. So again, Michael, I asked the question, are we starting to see the Palou dynasty?
I kind of just touched on it, but the chassis, as old as it is, and the good teams are going to win. And, it's kind of what, Josh and I were firing back and forth about, last week in our group chat. I think when this new car comes around, I think there needs to be some sort of, they need to take the spec out of it. And I get a lot of kickback from that, but I want to see these teams be able to develop cars and within the rules. Obviously there has to be rules but when you look at the IndyCar series, Josh made the point, well, what would that do? Well, I look at, Formula One and the technology they have and the different branding they can get and the different, characteristics of their cars and things like that. And I think those are elements that IndyCar series could bring in, not to the extent, obviously, because, Formula One's a $1 billion company that brings in revenues beyond belief. But at the same time, I think the spec car does contribute to some of the stagnation of some of the races. But if you bring in some characteristics, that the teams can kind of work on and have their own identity, I think that would help the series as well. But it could give some of the smaller teams a little bit of an advantage if they find something that other teams don't. And Josh made the point, well, in Formula One, only 2 teams have won over the last, 16 years. And I said, well, it'll be 3 this year with McLaren. And I said, there's only been 3 teams that have won the IndyCar championship over the last 20 years. So, how do I look at it from Palou's standpoint? If we continue to do the same things, the same thing is normally going to be the outcome. And racing is a little different because there are those variables, engine failures, mechanical failures, there's 26 other drivers out there that could also make a mistake and cost Palou. But if we continue to run the same chassis with the same teams and the same drivers, the outcome's not going to change much unless someone can find an advantage with a spec car. And it's kind of where we are right now is who can find whatever Chip Ganassi has with the 10 car. What can someone find else that they have that maybe another team is missing?
Yeah, I think that is the $1 million question right now. Is it the driver Is it the race strategist and Barry Wanzer, or is it the car itself? Definitely a question that's going to be asked a lot going into the off season. All right, my most important takeaway from this weekend, obviously, if you've watched the show before, you know what that's going to be. Will Power being able to pick up the dub for Team Penske. You know, we seen Will Power take the lead on lap 84, and it was all but over. But the shouting as Power cruised to a 1.538 second victory over Christian Lundgaard in the number 7 Velo Aero McLaren Chevrolet to collect his first win of the season. Now this is something for, I don't know, you non-regulars of that listen or watch the show, but Sunday's win was the first for Team Penske in 2025. That's huge. And then also, like I said, helping the legendary team avoid its first winless season since. Michael, do you have an answer? When was the last time Team Penske went winless in an IndyCar season?
You know, I was actually going to look this up because Will Power is actually one of my winners, but I want to say, if I remember, let's say it was mid-2000s, 2008, possibly.
The last time Team Penske had a winless season, 1999.
Oh.
1999. So, also this was Power's 45th victory in his legendary IndyCar Series career, and obviously the talk is getting louder and louder. And I know, Josh in our group text pointed out how it was either Josh or you, I can't remember which one it was, how irritable I think maybe or edged or how Will Power was being asked about his future next year. So I ask you the question, Michael. What does this win do for Will Power looking for a ride in 2026?
Not much, if I'm being honest. I think really Will said it best in his post-race news conference. If people were waiting on Will Power to be Will Power, I mean, just look at last year. He won 3 races last year, so just look at last year and look at what he's done this year when Team Penske hasn't been great. I mean, he's the leading driver in points for them. He's the lead driver on the racetrack 90% of the race weekends. So, I think he's still got the fire. I think he's still got the passion to do it. But I think it's going to have to be the right situation. And, we'll kind of touch base on that at some point, I'm sure. But, man, to see Power back in victory lane was super nice. Before I kind of got into, the media side of things, Power was my driver. He's always the guy I rooted for. And kind of, don't try to be biased towards Will Power, but it was good to see him win this past weekend. To have Liz there, that was really, an emotional thing for them, and the health struggles she's had over the past couple of years. So I think for Will Power, it showed him personally that he still has the drive, still has the passion, and still has the desire. What does it do for Team Penske? I think that's the bigger question. Have they already made up their mind? I mean, and people, I keep seeing this on social media, and they're like, well, how can they do this to Will Power? How can they do that? Well, they did it to Simon Pagenaud. They did it to Elio Castroneves. So Will Power might just be the next name added to that list. I mean, it's a business. The sport's a business at the end of the day, but at the same time, it's like, how does Verizon look at this? How do your sponsors look at this? Or does it just, hey, Roger's the man, that signs the checks for the series. He's the guy that signs the check for the, the race team. So we still like Roger, so let's just keep sponsoring. Those are the big question marks that kind of come with this whole situation. Or, sponsorship's a big thing as well. I don't know the contract situation with Verizon. Do they pack up with Will? And if he does leave, does he go with, does Verizon go with him somewhere else? I'm not sure the contract situation with Verizon, but I think they've been on Will Power's car since he started in the series, except for maybe the first 2 seasons. So it's been a long partnership for sure.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to watch. I think that's going to be the first domino to fall during silly season coming up here in about a month or two. But yes, you brought up a valid point that's how Simon Pagenaud walked out the door of Penske. That's how Elio Castroneves walked out the door of Penske. So definitely, we've seen this story before for sure. Michael, before we get into our interviews, results, point standings, and race picks, talk about your winners and losers column from the weekend.
Yeah, so winners and losers. There's sometimes I wait until I write these out to see. I don't read your 5 takeaways until I kind of jot these down and kind of think about it and look back over the results and the race and things like that. But some weeks were pretty spot on with winners and losers. Some weeks we were kind of astray. And this week I think we only have one in common. So it'd be interesting to take a good take here. So I have my first winner is Graham Rahal, coming from 22nd to 4th. It's the best finish for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan this season. Graham looked really good in practice, but the qualifying didn't work out for him. But to make some pit strategy work and get that car up into the top 5 is pretty impressive for a team that's had a lot of struggles this year. But Graham showed speed at the Indy road course, so they have speed in their cars. It's just putting the weekend together. Will Power we just talked about. I look at Team Penske as a whole. His teammates finished 7th and 24th, and if they do decide to move on from Will, his supposed replacement David Malukas finished 19th. So Will's just beating them every week. I don't know what more we can say about it. The 45 wins with Team Penske is pretty impressive. All the polls, I think he's up to 83 or 84 polls now. So. Guy's had a good career no matter what he decides to do, moving forward. And then another driver who had his best finish of the season, I put Alexander Rossi on there. First top 5 of the season, finished 5th. Best result for Ed Carpenter Racing. Kind of turns his season around. I felt like, and we kind of talked about this a few weeks ago as well. He had a good few races before Indy. Then he had the fire during the 500, and it just seemed like nothing clicked since then. So for them to get a good top 5s really well. The losers this week, we talked about Ed Carpenter Racing. How about Christian Rasmussen? That was a pretty wild situation there with Connor Daly. Wow. Just there's some sort of issue with Rasmussen. I think he's made several drivers mad this year just with his difficulty to pass. But, difficulty to pass is one thing. But when you're fighting for, 18th, 19th, it's a little aggressive. Glad Connor was okay after that situation. But I also look at race control as a failure again this weekend. I don't know how many more weeks. We only have 2 races left, so hopefully we won't have to talk about this anymore. But officiating is another big problem. I don't see how Rasmussen turns Daly through the grass there at 150 miles an hour, and the extent of that hit, and race control just ignore that completely. Not to mention he ran him off in 6th. So I don't know what race control was looking at. Maybe they were too worried about getting the championship trophy shined up for Palou, but I mean that was ridiculous. And then obviously you look at Pato O'Ward, who did have a mathematical chance, while very slim. The mechanical failure kind of derailed him this weekend. So not necessarily Pato's fault, just like we kind of talked about with Palou. Those mechanical failures, that's really the only thing that will slow him down. And, Pato has been really good this year. I think it's probably a career year for Pato. Just, those mechanical issues and then the start of the season just didn't work out well. So we'll have to see. But yeah, those are my winners and losers from Portland.
Good stuff. Good stuff as always. Michael, before we get into results and point standings, let's hear from some of the drivers that participated in Sunday's race.
You had an incredible battle with now the 4-time IndyCar champion, Alex Palou. Can you take us through that?
Yeah, obviously we got the pole yesterday. We had an engine penalty, put us back to P7. I knew the pace was in the car. I think if we would have started further up, I think the result would have been a little different today. I think we could have had power. Yeah, we gave it everything we had. Obviously, I don't really know what's happened to Pato yet. It's just unfortunate for the 5 cars. So at least we could pick up some of the pieces.
You really gave it all you had, ran out of fuel after the checkered flag had to be towed back here to pit lane. How much of a team effort was it today?
All weekend. I think everybody's recharged so much throughout last week, the week off, and I said it a couple of days ago. There's no racing without the truckies. There's no racing without the mechanics. So to have 2 P2s in a row is nice, but it's also really annoying because that means we were first loser twice.
Hey, that means on to Milwaukee, right?
Of course, we have two races more.
Thanks, Christian.
Back-to-back winners here in Portland. So much unknown about your future. Can you just put into words what that win means today?
I think it's just a big win for all the team, man. I mean, we've had a rough year, and it's not really because we've been off the pace. It's just been unfortunate circumstances. I've had 2 engine failures, a tyre failure, so it's a good hard-fought win. It kind of split that strategy at the beginning, and we picked the strategy to run hard, pull enough of a gap, and bit dicey at the end there, but yeah, man, just stoked. I've had a great career with Verizon and Penske, so I really enjoy winning for the guys and everyone I've worked with for a long time, so it's awesome.
Congratulations, man. I hope it carries on. Well done.
And understandably, he wanted to greet every member of this Chip Ganassi racing team. That's Ricky Davis, who's been one of his key mentors since he came and joined this team and won a championship in 2021. Now it's 4 and 5. I want to strike you with this. Only A.J. Foyt and Scott Dixon have won more championships than you. What does that mean?
It's unbelievable. It's crazy. I couldn't be happier right now. This has been an amazing season, an amazing 5 years with CGR. I have no words to describe how grateful I am to everybody at CGR, especially Chip, our partners, and all our fans that have been supporting us throughout the season, throughout these seasons. And to everybody that is new, welcome to the ride. This has been an amazing year, and cannot wait for more.
This is a championship that always comes down to the last race. You have clinched with 2 to go. What have you found on your competitors?
My team, the team I have behind me, all our partners, Honda, that has given us all the power we needed every single weekend. But my team, the car, has been unbelievable. Also today, it was a shame that we couldn't really end it with another win, but we fight it. I gave everything that I had. I tried everything to try and overtake Lundgaard, but I couldn't make it today.
It's still another podium for Alex Palou. It's championship number 17 for Chip Ganassi. That ties Team Penske for the most in IndyCar history.
Let's go!
And those were words from some of the drivers that took place in Sunday's race. So thanks to all of them for giving us a little bit of their thoughts after the race. Let's take a look at the results from Sunday's race if you have not seen them yet. Obviously, Will Power, Christian Lundgaard, and Alex Palou were your top 3, followed by Graham Rahal, Alexander Rossi, Callum Ilott, Scott McLaughlin, Marcus Armstrong, Felix Rosenquist, and Colton Herta rounded out your top 10. Then it was Scott Dixon, Christian Rasmussen, Louis Foster, Stingray Robb, Robert Schwartzman, Nolan Siegel, Renus VK, Devlin DeFrancesca, David Malukas, and Kyle Kirkwood rounded out your top 20. Then it was Kiffin Simpson, Marcus Erickson, Jacob Abel, Joseph Newgarden, Pato O'Ward, Connor Daly, and Santino Ferrucci rounded out your 27-car field. Switching over to the point standings, obviously, we do know that Alex Palou is your back-to-back-to-back points champion. Following Alex Palou is Pato O'Ward and Scott Dixon. Those are your top three. Then it is Christian Lundgaard, Kyle Kirkwood, Will Power, Felix Rosenqvist, Colton Herta, Marcus Armstrong, David Malukas round out your top 10. Then they are followed by Scott McLaughlin, Renus VK, Christian Rasmussen, Santino Ferrucci, Graham Rahal, Alexander Rossi, Kiffin Simpson, Joseph Newgarden, Connor Daly, and Marcus Erickson round out the top 20. Then it is Nolan Siegel, Callum Ilott, Louis Foster, Robert Schwartzman, Stingray Robb, Devlin DeFrancesca, and Jacob Abel round out the full season 27-car field. All right. Michael, before we get to race picks, and it is tight, anything else from the results to the point standings that you want to touch on here before we get to our race picks?
Yeah, just leave the point. Oh, if you could leave those points up there just for a minute. Yeah, so you're going to want to look at the leader circle, and I know we talk about that, but the top 22 in the championship get those guaranteed $1.2 million. So right now you're looking, top 22. You have to remove Callum Ilott and Robert Schwartzman because they're not chartered teams. So you're looking at that battle between really Nolan Siegel, Louis Foster, and Stingray Robb. I think those. So you look at that, and Stingray Robb is 29 behind Louis Foster according to this chart here. So in order for that to happen, for Stingray to bump in, he's going to need to make up 29 points on Louis Foster. And, Foster's had a great season, and the points don't really show that, and his results don't. But he's had a pretty decent season. But, yeah, it's another one that's interesting is how close, Connor Daly is to Joseph Newgarden in points. Who would have thought, coming into the season, we talked about, can Joseph Newgarden win 3 Indy 500s in a row? And now we're talking about, can Joseph Newgarden win a race? So that's pretty interesting to see him 18th in points.
Yeah, definitely a lot of good things there, a lot of interesting things, and definitely a lot of eyes are going to be on those winner circle points with just 2 races left in the season. All right, I've teased it enough, Michael. Let's switch over to the race picks. This past Sunday, you were able to etch your name one step closer to the picks championship. You did pick Alexander Rossi, who was the highest finisher. So right now, with 2 races left to go, we have a 3-way tie for first place between yours truly, Michael, and Joy. Josh is bringing up the rear with 3 points. So, Michael, with your correct selection on Sunday, you get to brag and boast there a little bit.
I guess. I mean, I went on like a horrible streak there, But with the new, rule that we, implemented there with having to pick a different driver that we haven't picked before, I think that's really shaken this thing up, because really someone could have just picked Palou all year and you'd be the champion in this as well. So it kind of, made it interesting. I picked Jacob Abel for a race. Who's picking Jacob Abel for a race to win, so it kind of gives you some, fun, ways to pick. You kind of have to, I've saved 2 drivers, I feel like, for the last races. So, really excited about the 2 I have left. I think you still have one of them as well. So I think Josh and Joy may have used both of them up already. And I'm talking about the 2 Penske drivers. I don't know if they've used I know Joy's used power for sure, and I think Josh has used power, but I'm not sure if they've used Newgarden or McLaughlin yet. So I know I still have Joseph and, I still have Joseph and I still have Scott available. So, Oval's coming up. There might be choices for me to use them, but we'll see. Maybe we'll change it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I do see your strategy there with, again, 2 ovals and having Newgarden. We know what success Newgarden has on ovals, so definitely seeing your strategy right there. All right, before we get to our news and notes, let's step aside and talk about some of the sponsors that makes it possible for us to bring you the Push to Pass podcast on a weekly basis. And the first sponsor we'd like to thank is Always Ready 1776. For all your patriotic apparel, headwear, and more, go check out Always Ready 1776, and you can find them on the web at alwaysready1776.com. And if you do find something that you would like to purchase, as you see right there on the screen, make sure you use that promo code that you see right there, Push to Pass, to get 10% off of your order over at Always Ready 1776. Another great sponsor of the Push to Pass podcast is Gettum Associates. For all your home design, build, and remodeling needs, remember, it's Gettum Associates. And you can find them on the web as well at Gettum.com. If you do choose to use one of their design services, make sure you use that promo code you see right there at the bottom, Push to Pass, for $250 off any design service over at Gettum Associates. And then the last sponsor of the Push to Pass podcast that's been added for a few weeks now is Diane's Landscaping. For all your tree service, fertilizing, topsoil, grass cut, garden cleanups, hedge trimming, garden weeding, controlling lawn aeration, and sodding, remember, it's Diane's Landscaping. You can find them on Facebook by searching Diane's Landscaping, or call them at 419-770-2332. That is Diane's Landscaping. A huge thank you to all 3 sponsors that make it possible for us to bring you the Push to Pass podcast on a weekly basis. All right, Michael, before we get out of here for this evening, we do have a news and notes to go over. I know we talked about this earlier in the show, but for people that may not have seen the tweet earlier today, the numbers were released for this past weekend's BitNile Grand Prix of Portland. So Fox can accurately say that their viewership was up 86% with Will Power's victory and Alex Palou's championship clinch in Portland this past weekend. Now, some bullets or some takeaways from the viewership increase this past weekend. Fox reports it was 708,000 viewers tuned in to the race on Sunday. Again, that is up 86% from 380,000 viewers for last season's Portland race. The race did peak at 945,000 viewers from 5:35 to 5:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The first 31 minutes of the race aired on Fox Sports 1, averaging 151,000 viewers from 3:15 to 3:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Through the first 15 races of the season, IndyCar on Fox and FS1 is averaging 1,416,000 viewers, and that is up 28% from last year, which was 1,106,000. And then also viewership is up 13% versus last year's 626,000 viewers for the 2024 IndyCar non-Indianapolis 500 race average. So, Michael, with all that being said, your takeaway from the numbers, viewership numbers that were released today.
Yeah, we still have a lot of work to do, and we really need to not time ourselves in a horrible window with NASCAR. But if I look at the overall sports ratings this weekend, they were all pretty much down across the board. So it'd be interesting to know why that is. I know a lot of schools here in the Indy area did go back this past week, which is crazy to me that they were, back in school at the beginning of August. But that could be part of it as well. But the TV numbers are what they are. They need to increase, and hopefully Fox can help do that. Going forward.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, it's going to be interesting to see what Fox does at the table in the offseason, due to the fact now that they actually own a share of this series. So Fox going forward is obviously going to have their hands full. All right, Michael, before we drop the checkered flag on another episode of the Push to Pass podcast, anything that I may have missed or something that you want to hit on or cover before we get on out of here?
Yes, it was announced today that Pepsi and Frito-Lay are going to be a sponsor there at the Arlington race I guess in 2026, the inaugural race, which is a great sponsor to grab. Pepsi and Frito-Lay being Fritos out of Texas, which is very good because, for far too long on this show, for sure, you and I talk about those brands that you can actually physically consume. And Frito-Lay and Pepsi are big ones. So I did see that they will be at pit stops and concession stands. There'll be Frito-Lay and Pepsi products all throughout the race there at Arlington. So good sponsor, good big name sponsor that is interested in such a big event. And hopefully IndyCar can kind of promote it very well. Fox can promote it very well, get tickets sold, and make it an experience, because that's what fans want. If you look at how successful Hy-Vee was with Iowa, and we can look at the failure of Iowa this year, but that's what people want. Look how sold out. They had to bring in stands because there was that many people there for 4 concerts. So people are attending races so they can attend concerts. Well, if that's what it takes to get new eyes on the sport and have them continue to watch the sport, then give them a concert. Spend some money. Roger's got enough of it. He can spend some money to get fans to come to a race.
Before we get on out of here, you brought up a great point, and I'm hoping that there are team PR people watching this, because bring Pepsi on as a sponsor on your car. If they can sponsor a race and be the official drink of the Arlington GP, then I'm pretty sure that they'd be chomping at the bit to put their Pepsi logo on the side of your livery. So make them a car sponsor. Okay, that's all I got. But, good stuff, Michael, as always. A huge thank you to everyone on the platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter and X for tuning in this evening. Huge thank you out to all of you. Huge thank you to Michael, as always every week. He is carving out time in his busy schedule, folks. If you had any idea how busy Michael was, it would absolutely blow your mind. So huge thank you to him. Huge thank you to Josh, even though he is not here this evening. I know he is here in spirit, so we can always use a little bit of spirit here on the Push to Pass podcast. So that does it for us. Let's try that again. That does it for us this evening. We'll be back in 1 week's time to preview, discuss, and analyze the Milwaukee 250. I think it's what the Snap-on Milwaukee 250. That's what it is. There we go. We'll get that corrected for next week. So for myself, Michael, Josh, and everyone else behind the scenes that makes up the Push to Pass podcast, until next week, so long, everybody.
And jump him up to 6th position.
Echo.
The call is no pressure. And yet pressure is what has been on Will Power's shoulders from the very first race of this season. Question marks from the preseason into the first race and at every round of this series. Is this his final year with Penske? He himself does not know. But with the drive of a champion today, Will Power asks the question, oh captain, my captain, dare you drop me? Dare you get rid of the man who has led this team year after year, who has more poles, who is faster than any driver in the history of this series, who will win once again? Will Power returns to victory lane and puts Penske back on the top step of the podium.
Oh, good job, boys, all weekend. Very good job, very good job.
Lundgaard home second, and while the day belongs to Power, the year belongs to Palou. Alex Palou is a four-time IndyCar champion.
Nice. That is peak form. He's even good at donuts. Anytime you do one rotation and the left rear matches the first circle, that is the surgeon getting it done in the operating room.
Let's go, boys! You guys are the best. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for making me a four-time IndyCar champion. Woo!
Good job. Yeah, good job.
Not the win he would have loved, but it doesn't matter. It's a podium. He will get to spray the champagne and celebrate what has been, what remains an incredible season. 4 times a champion of the NTT IndyCar Series, all in less than 100 race starts. He joins the greatest of all time. He joins AJ Foyt. He joins Scott Dixon. He joins Mario Andretti, Sebastian Bourdais, and Dario Franchitti as one of the few to have notched up 4 titles, and cements his position unquestionably now in the same year that he won the Indy 500 as one of the greatest, not just of his, but of any generation in this championship's rich history.
And understandably, he wanted to greet every member of this Chip Ganassi racing team. That's Ricky Davis, has been one of his key mentors since he came and joined this team and won a championship in 2021. Now it's 4 and 5. I want to strike you with this. Only AJ Foyt and Scott Dixon have won more championships than you. What does that mean?
It's unbelievable. It's crazy. I couldn't be happier right now. This has been an amazing season, an amazing 5 years with CGR. I have no words to describe how grateful I am to everybody at CGR, especially Chip, our partners, and all our fans that have been supporting us throughout the season, throughout these seasons. And to everybody that is new, welcome to the ride. This has been an amazing year, and cannot wait for more.
This is a championship that always comes down to the last race. You have clinched with 2 to go. What have you found on your competitors?
My team, the team I have behind me, all our partners, Honda, that has given us all the power we needed every single weekend. But my team, the car, has been unbelievable. Also today, it was a shame that we couldn't really end it with another win, but we fought it. I gave everything that I had. I tried everything to try and overtake Lundgaard, but I couldn't make it today.
It's still another podium for Alex Palou. It's championship number 17 for Chip Ganassi. That ties Team Penske for the most in IndyCar history.